Hello and welcome to the Higher Learning Exchange podcast, a space for innovators to push the boundaries of education practice and technology. I'm really pleased to welcome Willem Schoors. Hello, Willem.
Hi, good afternoon.
Started as a teacher of Dutch and computer science in a secondary school in Belgium. He has several roles as quality coordinator, head teacher, and finally, in 2011, Willem started working for the school district. It is thanks to that Willem became really inspired to start his own school, an innovative school that opened its doors in 2018. Present work led Willem to work for the Flemish Ministry of Education and Training in Brussels, where he is now responsible for the EmpowerEd project, which is the main point for our meeting today. So thank you, Willem. I don't actually know many people that have created their own school, so I can't wait to hear this story.
Well, yeah, so as you told in your introduction, I worked for the school district and for a rather traditional school. But the good thing was that working for the school district, I met lots of people. I visited different schools. I talked a lot with researchers. And there were two things going on in the city I worked in. At first, there was a shortage of places for kids in the schools. And every year, the problem was getting worse and worse. And everyone was looking at us like, okay, create a solution. Make sure that there's more places for those youngsters. And on the other hand, Leuven is a city with one of the biggest universities in Belgium, and with a lot of people who work within the field of education. And always when I talk to them, we got lots of crazy ideas about how the school of the future should look like. So those two things were going on, and I was like, okay, we need more places, and we have a lot of ideas about how schools should look like. So we can do two things now. We can create extra capacity by building new classrooms and do the same thing we do since, 100 years. Or we can use this opportunity to do something really new and look at it. I convinced a research center on education to work with us. So we had researchers who set up the school with us. So everything we did was evidence-based. And also the city and the Flemish government worked with us to make sure that we got all the money you need to build a school like that. And in only 2 years,
because I mean, in my experience, research always takes a little bit too long before you get. So how did you get that in time, because I mean, 2 years sounds like a really short period of time. I thought you were going to say it was much longer.
So what the job of the researchers was, they did two things at once, let's say. They looked at the building of our school. Afterwards, I wrote a book and I wrote reports about what you need to take into account when you're making a new school. But at the moment itself, they were like our access to research. They didn't do research themselves on the topics we were handling because, as you said, that would take too much time. But they were very well aware of all the research that had existed. And that we didn't have access to as educators, but they could find for us, and they could bring us in touch with researchers who did the research.
So tell me about the innovative, what sets this school apart from other schools? Can you tell me something about, what sets it apart?
Well, what we really focused on was, actually the most important research we started from was the self-determination theory, which tells what motivates people to learn or also to work or do sports, whatever, but what motivates you. We started from that. And if you look at the research, and a Belgian professor, Maarten van Steenk, is translated it to education. And he teaches us that there's three very important elements when you want to motivate people. And those are to be connected, to have you need to make sure that pupils get a feeling of autonomy, that they have the process in their own hands, and competence, that they are working on the level that's right for them. The challenges them a bit without challenging him a bit. So these three elements were really like the base of our school. With a big focus on autonomy, meaning that we didn't have the traditional classes. Well, we do have them, but not all the time, where a teacher is in front of a classroom and tells the pupils what to do during 1 hour. We had bigger blocks, longer sessions, but teachers were more like coaches than the traditional teacher. Pupils were in larger groups of 60, 70 youngsters, and they got assignments from the teachers in the beginning of the week. And they had all week long to plan their own time and to see what way.
The support and the solutions to implement these different approach to teaching and learning. How did you find that experience? I mean, did you have the tools available? How was that experience?
And the short answer is it was really challenging because especially to work on a way like this, there is no solution that you can just buy. Actually, we decided when we started the school to start without technology, not because we weren't convinced of the value of it, but because we wanted to make sure at first that our system and our approach to learning really worked, and it didn't depend on the technology. So I remember before opening the school, teachers were cutting lots of materials to make. We had like a physical planning board where they had all the assignments and you could follow how much a pupil progressed. So it was a physical material. We didn't use technology for things like that. It meant a lot of work, but it also meant that everyone was really thinking about what we were doing and why we were doing it. And it was only in the second stage, which came quite early. I mean, after 1 year, every pupil had a laptop, every teacher had one, and we had the right or almost the right solutions to run.
Okay.
And we came to that by talking to people. I think the good thing was because of my previous jobs, I had a good network. So we talked to developers. We explained them very well what we needed. They came to us to look at what we were doing. And so we got to the right.
But these were not off products.
No.
Implement the learning design. And then you did gradually develop the solutions.
Yes.
Wow. Congratulations. How big is the school?
I still say we, but the school now has about 200, a little bit more than 200 pupils and a team of 27.
And so all these experiences have now led you to lead a fascinating and project. I'm actually going to let you explain what this project is trying to achieve.
So EmpowerEd is a project coordinated by European SchoolNet. We have small and big ones. The biggest ones are, European SchoolNet as a coordinator, and Europe, which is like the organization that groups all national edtech associations are spread over Europe. Then we have 3 ministries of education, ourselves, the one from Flanders, and then Lithuania and Greece. And some other organizations. What we try to do in the project is, the short explanation is that we try to set up a European edtech ecosystem, and we've added, and I'm quite a big fan of that, for better learning. And I think that's really important to emphasize, because that's what it's all about. The project is about getting the edtech sector better, and I mean to support companies, of course, they need support, but it all needs to lead to this point of better learning, to make sure that what happens in school happens better, that they get better support, and that at the end of the day, it's the better promise.
I imagine that this idea and this project came from your experiences before. So can you describe perhaps what are the challenges you're hoping to solve?
Yeah, but there's a lot of challenges, I think, and it depends on your point of view, what the biggest challenges are. I mean, if we look at the edtech solution providers, as we call them, or the companies, I think, or I realize now that edtech is quite a challenging market. It's much more diverse than education or schools are also maybe difficult clients, because it takes them a really long time to take a decision. Often they can't take the decision themselves. They depend on the region they're in or even the country they're in. There's a lot of regulations, so that makes it quite a challenging. On the other hand, for schools or educational institutions themselves, it's also challenging working with the edtech companies because they're not used to working with commercial partners. And within schools, it has been believed for a long time that everything is online or everything that is digital should be free. And that's really a change of mind within the education world. But also because schools or educational institutions really need qualitative solutions. And that is a really big challenge to find things that are qualitative, that are taught through, that are evidence-based or evidence-informed, and that really work when classroom. So it's a challenge to find them, and it's also very challenging to define what is this quality and what is it. So I think those are the two main challenges we're trying to tackle, and we do that by creating a community and by letting people talk to each other, because I think that's essential.
And what would be the main message, for example, for edtech solution providers? What can they start to think about now or do perhaps?
Well, as I said before, I realize now, and it's really a new insight I got, that the edtech market is a particular market and it needs a particular approach because of that. But what I would tell to them is, please look at schools or at educators and also researchers as partners instead of clients, and start talking to them at the beginning of your development process, because as an entrepreneur, you have an idea and you're convinced, and rightfully so often, that you have a great idea that is the solution to the biggest problem in the world, and you're going to change education, and maybe you will, but make sure to talk to schools and to talk to educators and researchers to make sure that you're finding solutions for the right problem and for the problem that really lives within schools, and that you are developing a solution that will work once it gets implemented into schools. So that's, I think, my most or remote message for the entrepreneurs. Talk to the partners you have. Consider them as partners instead of clients.
So for about education, so what can they be thinking about to help themselves and help providers provide the solutions with you, because this is such a challenge.
But I think, first of all, before even looking at edtech, they really need to clarify for themselves what learning is for them, and how they, or with strategy, yeah, I think it's the right word, they use to come to results, to come to real impact with their pupils. And they first need to develop a vision on that before looking to technology, because technology should be there. It's not the technology themselves or in it. Even now with AI, which is probably changing the world, I'm still convinced that you don't need to work with AI in your school because every newspaper is talking about it. But look at, okay, what is learning for me? Where do I want to get with my pupils? And how can, for example, AI help to achieve that goal? I think that's a very important thing that we are also at the Ministry of Education. We are very strongly emphasizing on that message. Apart from that, my message is the same as to the technology providers.
I will take all of that. Third important stakeholder group in this sort of equation to connect more. What could they be thinking about? How could they make their research more?
Yeah. But first of all, let me say again that I think research is very important, and maybe it's even apart from, of course, the stakeholders, the companies and schools. I think it's the most important stakeholder in the ecosystem, because it's there where all the knowledge and expertise is. The biggest challenge, by my point of view, is to get it out of the research field. Researchers are often in their own world, and they talk to each other. They talk to other researchers, and they go to conferences where lots of researchers meet and they exchange their knowledge, which is great. But they also should get out of their own world and work with schools and work with companies to share everything they know and everything they learn to make better products. And I also believe that they also here they should do it during the process, because what you see sometimes now is a researcher, he follows a development of a product or a solution or a new school. If I look at my own experience, as a research project, and then put themselves on the side as an observer. They look at all the process, and at the end of the process, they will write a report and say, okay, maybe next time you could change this and this and that, and it would go better. And I think, well, but as an active researcher, you get into the process and you say, you know what, you're working on this, but I've read research or I have done research within this field, and it tells that these and these are the factors you should really take into account, but play an active role in the development process. You can still write that report afterwards, but then you've been an added value in the process itself. And that's the way of working.
That's just so exciting to hear and so interesting. And I think an important message to each stakeholder group. But essentially is collaborate to the project. So tell us a little bit more about what activities you have planned. So you're now halfway through,
at the end of, we're now in year 2.
You've got, so what are the planned activities? What
we're doing, and we have done different things. First of all, at the end of 23, we published 2 reports on the European. I think one is more generally, broad audience and doesn't dig too deep. The other one is more extensive and is more geared to. Of course, these reports are publicly available on our website. Next to that, we're doing lots of other different interesting stuff. And the European EdTech Alliance, which is one of our main partners. Here it's the European EdTech map. And that's a map where you can find more than 1,400 EdTech companies and organizations spread over Europe. You can filter, you can say, okay, I'm looking for a company that works with primary schools within Romania. You filter and you can find them. And what we're working on now is to also map support systems like test beds, accelerators, incubators, and also put them on this map so that everyone can find each other. What we're also doing is working on initiatives to promote collaboration between the different stakeholders. We don't organize a lot of our own events. What we mostly do is plug into existing events because there's also already a lot happening. And then we organize workshops on existing EdTech events, but we will still organize our own EdTech week. Even more interesting maybe is our training and support tools. The ones that are already ready are the ones for entrepreneurs. So there's MOOCs and there's guidelines available on our website for them. And now we're working on the same kind of materials, but for educators. Assisting them in making the right choices, in working together. How do you do it? Really accessible step-by-step information on how to step into this.
Okay.
And lastly, all of this should come together in an online platform. It should be released soon, I think in the beginning of March, or if I look at my calendar now, it will be where everything will come together, but where we will also add some additional features. Something I'm really excited about is a matchmaking tool where EdTech entrepreneurs can find schools to work with. So they say, okay, I'm working on a new solution, as I told. It's very important to involve educators very soon in the process, but where to find them. So that's why we're setting up a matchmaking tool that is like some kind of database.
I would like to end the interview by asking, obviously you must have some future. What do you imagine?
I find that a really difficult to say. And honestly, I'm in education since, more than 20 years now. And I think I've always had this vision or this dream to answer that, because we're in really, I would say disruptive, but also with AI coming, with so many things happening around us, that it's in the end. But what I'm really convinced about, and apart from the actual technology we will use, or how the classroom will look like, I'm really hoping and dreaming about a more collaborative approach. Back to the start of the story, I mean, let's all work together, and let's especially not forget what it's all about, and that is these young kids or youngsters learning, and getting better at something, and in the best case, getting better at something they want, or they are interested, or even passionate about. Because for me, that's what education is all about, and with or without AI.
So on those wise words and a very wise vision, I think I'm going to thank you for sharing so much from your experience.
Thank you.